If you're a fan of the show, you know that I enjoy myself some hockey, and it is playoff season, and things are getting exciting. And I'm always thinking about how that can apply to Go. And Go is not very exciting to watch. I'm sorry if I offend, but I think that most Go players don't watch Go. Most hockey fans actually don't play hockey. Isn't that a funny thing? I think, I did an episode a while back on this. It's called How Do We Make Go More Exciting to Watch? And I don't know, I was thinking about it again, and just the fact that hockey is just such a physical thing, and any sport really, any popular sport, it's such a physical thing, and you can watch something go back and forth, and that, and all the team drama of it, right? You have the micro level of just managing or just analyzing individual players, and then zooming out and analyzing how they work within the team, what the team needs defensively, offensively, and then you can zoom out even further, analyzing whether it's the coach or the general manager or the owners of the team, and you can just keep going at it. And I was listening to a hockey podcast, and I was thinking, wow, they have so much to talk about with that stuff. Maybe I'm just inept, and I'm just not able to talk about Go in that way. But for me, I mean, Go, you got to understand the game so much in order to talk about it, and watch it and enjoy it. It's like an active enjoyment. Whereas for me, like when I watch something like a game of hockey, it's when I turn on my lizard brain. It's funny because it's like I'm saying I'm turning on a part of my brain, but I'm really just shutting off parts of my brain. I just go lizard brain mode. I just look at puck, go left and right, puck go in, net, puck good, right? That's how I view it. And it's very, you can relax, you can get excited. Your mental is not really stressed. When I'm watching Go, I'm like, so is that a good move or is that a bad move? And I'm like thinking really hard about it. I don't know. There's a lot of ideas here and there about how to make Go more watchable, more exciting. I think that the prime one being shorten the games and make the games a little faster to watch. But I don't think that alone is going to do it. I think we need a lot more changes. If you can go back and listen to episode 106, you'll know what I'm talking about, because I'll probably expand in more detail in that. But I was just thinking about the topic again because it is playoff season, and I'm just noticing the spectacle that it is to watch these physical games. You're listening to Starpoint, the show about Go for Go fans away from the board. And today, the topic for today's episode was actually suggested by a listener recently. Otan, thank you very much for this episode idea. And it just so happens that I had one in the chamber, so to speak. I had an episode kind of roughly outlined of some thoughts I had about this topic. So it was just convenient for me to pull that up, and why not service a topic suggestion? And I'm also open to any suggestions you guys have. If you find something interesting and you want me to talk about it, I'd be more than happy to try to explore that. But today's episode is about why we make the moves we make, or maybe another way to put it is the different kinds of moves that are possible to be made in Go. Move classification. That is the thing, because, well, picture this. Imagine a strong player, let's say they're a Dan or above ranking, and they're reviewing a game with somebody who's a little weaker, a weaker Q player. And the strong player is reviewing their game, and at a certain point asks the Q player, "Why did you make this move?" Just wondering. And the Q player says, "I don't remember. I don't know. I just felt like it." Maybe they say, manage to drum up some response like, "I guess I thought that was the biggest," or something, right? Some very vague thing. I've heard this countless times. Like I've seen this so many times when a stronger player is reviewing a weaker player's game, and the weaker player cannot explain why they made the moves that they made. Now, is that really the worst thing? Maybe not. Maybe you don't always have to understand fully everything you do, but I think it does raise the question, why do we make the moves we make? And what benefit could it have for us to know what moves or what reasons we have for the moves we make? That's not to say every strong player will always have their reasons before they make any given move. No, that's not. I don't think that's true at all. We actually base many of our moves based on intuition. However, I think we still can unravel or unearth the reasons behind that intuition. If you were to see a strong player make a move instinctively right away somewhere, they may not fully have everything verbalized in their brain, but you ask them why you made that move, they will kind of retroactively reflect and say, well, you know what? I guess I made this move because X, Y, and Z. And I think that means that they have a lot of reasons embedded into their intuition. A lot of the super intuitive intuition, like without logic kind of thing, would be maybe more like something where you do understand the reasons behind both move types, but one just slightly calls to you more, and maybe you have no way of knowing the reason for that in that situation. And you may be right or you may be wrong in that situation as well. And some reasons that you give for moves may be not as strong, but they are still there. Sometimes your reason for a move is that there's nothing else on the board that's urgent, and you find this one particular move to at least gain a couple points. And so that can be a reason for a move. You don't have to have like a stellar reason for every single move, especially if the temperature of the game is low. But I think that overall, it's better to know more about why you're making your moves. If you know the reason for a move, you can also critique that move more accurately. You can say, well, is this a good move or a bad move? If you say it's a bad move, well, it doesn't do anything, right? That's why it's a bad move. You can say that. But if the player says, I made this move because I wanted to grab territory, then instead of just saying it's a bad move because it doesn't do anything, you say, it doesn't capture territory or it doesn't create territory for you here because this is in place, or this is a much better way to take territory. You can be a lot more surgical with the feedback. You can learn more. And I think when you review things, you can also see if the move fulfilled the purpose that it was played for. And so I think those are some really good reasons why it's better to understand the reasons behind our moves. So today I'm going to go over an outline of all the move types that I could possibly think of. They're kind of haphazardly organized, but I will try my best and just go over all the reasons that I could think of you would make any move in Go. The first category of moves, which kind of mixes with another category, is, I will call it territory moves. But maybe this is like a large scale territory move, because I'm going to touch on Yosei later, and I'm going to categorize that as a separate thing. But territory based moves, I'm talking about the first moves of the game, the big moves, the opening moves, right? That's one type of territory move, I would say. Maybe, I don't know, maybe territory is not the best word for it. Maybe my first instinct was to stake out, right? Staking moves. Is that a thing? But basically sketching out what you want, right? That's what the opening is. And when you do this, we play in the corners and the sides before we play in the center, because one stone, let's say the board was infinite, right? And it wasn't a 19 by 19, but an infinity by infinity board. Wherever you were to place the stone, it really isn't staking out anything until you place at least one or two more stones. Even one other stone I mean, I guess one other stone is enough influence because you kind of see it as a one-dimensional thing, but then in reality, two stones some distance from one another exerts enough influence that you can start to imagine a territory in between those two stones, right? But anyway, what I'm saying is like it's a drop in the ocean, right? For the stone to be on an infinite board, it's not taking any territory. So on a 19 by 19 board, on a finite square board, what we do is actually we are creating a sort of area and boundary around the edge or corner of the board with that one stone. Well, the corner mostly, right? The corner, because we have those two walls for free. So that's what we're doing. We're basically just staking out territory and using that one stone in conjunction with the edges of the board to maybe territory. This is why territory is maybe not the best term for this type of move. I'll just call them staking moves. I don't know if staking is a verb, but S-T-A-K-E, stake, not the delicious steak that you have at a restaurant. But staking moves, okay? Big moves, opening moves, right? And then this kind of bleeds into extensions, right? So you're doing the same thing. You're creating stakes, but you are doing it no longer off the corner of the board, but maybe off of your own thickness. So these moves are setting the stage and sketching things out so that you can further develop and make more concrete territory or spheres of influence. That's why I didn't want like territory move or the territory term for this type of move. Because if you're playing a 4/4, you're not really trying to create territory with that. I mean, it's a little fuzzy there. Another way you can kind of see this type of move is preventing your opponent's big moves. Just maybe some things where you are putting a stone down, it doesn't actually help you very much in terms of gaining your own territory based on the position of the board, but it kind of intrudes on what your opponent could have done and prevents them from staking out a big territory. And then that even goes further in the type of move of invasion, right? That goes even further and actually says, I'm going to stake out this area inside where you're supposed to control. So all these moves, I actually covered in the Seeds and Root lecture in an episode of Starpoint, where I imagine these moves as seeds, where it's a very large field with some spots that are more fertile than others, right? Like the corners are more fertile than the center in the beginning. And if you're invading, you also have maybe more fertile or less fertile invasions. The more fertile invasions will allow you to escape, will have at least two routes of escape. And so you're planting these seeds and you're trying to put them in the most fertile area. So that's the first category of moves that I have. And obviously there are subcategories that I mentioned there. The next category of moves I would say I would want to maybe go over is defensive moves. There are all sorts of defensive moves, one of them being fixing connections, because keeping your groups connected is usually advantageous. Now, I know that there are beginners who hyperfixate on it and they try to keep things connected, even though things are already strong and there's no need. But connections are generally good because they raise the liberties of a group. They raise the livelihood and the thickness of the group. They allow more chances for more eyes, and that's generally a good thing to keep your groups connected. It's actually more efficient, too, because you only need 2 eyes for a larger group of stones. If you are disconnected, you will need eyes for each group individually. So, depending on the board position, usually keeping something connected is a lot more efficient than when it gets cut apart. And sometimes it's very precarious. when you get cut apart, and you have these weak groups and they're split and they're even weaker and you start dying. So fixing connections is a big thing in Go, and they may not always look like stones just attaching, right? You're thinking a fixing connection may look like when somebody tries to cut into a diagonal or a Kasumi and you fill in the other spot to connect that. But that's not always the case. Sometimes you fix with a tiger's mouth, sometimes you fix with a bamboo joint, and these are still very direct fixes of connections. Sometimes you do this move that is like a large knight's move, and somehow that fixes the connection. And the more ways you know how to fix your connections, the more versatile you will be as a Go player, and as a result, you'll be a better Go player for it. Sometimes fixing connections isn't about responding to a threat of a cut, but making a move that is a prophylactic move to prevent disconnection in the future or make it very difficult. Sometimes these moves, they may not fully explicitly connect your moves together, or your groups rather together, but it creates a situation where if the threat of a disconnection were to approach, it would be very difficult because that shape is very strong or something like that. Obviously, there are mistakes that can be made in this type of move. One of them is not making the move and being disconnected. That is definitely a mistake. Another side of it, though, is fixing too many things, right? Fixing things that don't need fixing. Fixing things that are either connected already and you didn't need a move there to connect it, or fixing things that are strong, like I mentioned before, strong on both sides and they don't need to be connected. That usually happens when you're playing on instinct and you look at shapes and you've gotten used to feeling good about connecting, and you just follow that feeling of feeling good about connecting, and you don't really think critically about the board, and you stop doing that, and that's when things start to get a little dicey. Another defensive move type would be a living move. This is kind of a micro or local situation where your shape or your group might be killed, and it might die completely if you don't add a move there. This is kind of like a Tsumego problem type move. Sometimes you need a move in a vital point to create two eyes, or you will just die. And these are defensive moves that are very important to make. But same mistake can be made here, where you make a move that you didn't need to. You were alive anyway. But that's skill that you need to develop as a player as you go on. Sometimes when you're fighting or interacting with your opponent's group, there are some move types you might be making that would be considered as defensive. For example, settling, right? Settling is a process that you might do to make sure your group is safe. You would crystallize the situation and spread your wings a little bit and make sure you have enough eye space, and taking a base, right? Just the fact of taking a base, right? That it can in and of itself is a little bit of a defensive move. Maybe defensive move can also be split a little bit into defending against actual attacks versus just making sure your group is healthy. Escaping is a defensive move, right? If you're under attack, you can escape. And what does escaping do, right? Escaping is generally you're maybe under attack, you're on the side of the board with a group, and your opponent leans on you. What you do is you go to the center. Because when you're escaping, I think usually what it means is that the chance for a base is gone, or your base is already done and you still need to kind of escape. Because if the first thing you do is you would take a base first, right? But escaping would be towards the center, right? So because the other sides won't be available, why do we go towards the center? Well, there's nothing over there. There's no territory over there. What are we doing over there? It's because there's a whole bunch of space over there. So escaping and making your group bigger towards the center it will expand your liberties and expand your options for running away. Because the more you run away, the more liberties you'll have. And there's that saying, a large dragon never dies. And part of that is because as you chase a dragon, it gets bigger and bigger, and it gains more liberties, and you think you corner it, but it just has so many liberties. And usually what happens is there's a weakness of yours you created while chasing this dragon, and you just can't kill it, and because you died yourself or something like that. But that's why we escape. We escape to the center because there's so much space over there, at least in the beginning of the game, so that we can live to see another day. There's always potential. You can go to the center and get more liberties and maybe make some eyes depending on the situation, or you can go and connect to something else that you have, and that'll amplify your life with that situation. I don't think I covered a lot of defensive moves, but those are the ones I can think of. There are obviously very complicated situations where some moves are considered as defensive based on the situation, but that's what I have right now for the defensive moves. So naturally, we're going to move on to the offensive moves. These are the moves that everyone gets excited about. This is the threats, the attacks, poking your opponent to see what they will do. Now, obviously, there are different levels of severity in the offensive move types, and a very, very, very high severity of an offensive move will be considered Sente, right? You have to respond to this move or you are going to die, that kind of situation. I think that Knight's move towards an opponent's group is usually seen as an offensive move. You can do something as offensive as trying to play a killing move, a final blow, or rather, maybe not a final blow, but a threat. Could be an offensive move, just putting any kind of pressure and constricting your opponent's group. Moves around weak groups are generally offensive moves, even if you're not trying to attack. If you make a move in proximity to a very weak group, they're gonna kind of have to respond because their group gets weaker and weaker, and if they're not too careful about it, they may die. And that's something that I think you need to harness, which is just knowing that your stone has impact, whether you're trying to use it to attack or not, will open up new opportunities for you. Because if you just think about attack, you might just think about that one most aggressive move. But if you think more like, how much do I really need to attack this group, and kind of reel it back a bit, you can consider moves that fulfill other purposes. And that move may still be very uncomfortable for your opponent, and it may just be better for you. A piece of Go advice I received a long time ago that stuck with me about attacking moves is that the attack must have a follow-up. What that means is when you attack someone and you play a move, you are supposed to be threatening something bad to happen in the next move. Because if it's a killing move, that's not really an attack, that's just a killing move. But if you play something and your opponent doesn't respond to that move and tanukis, then your next move better be good. And your next move better be almost a killing move or something just so crippling that they really shouldn't have done that. Because that's what attacking is. If you attack and there's no need to really respond, then it's not really an attack. It's like a light pressure. So think about two moves when you think about attacks. The first move, the threat. Second move, what is the follow-up to that threat? And this is useful from both sides of the coin. This is useful from both the attacking and the defending perspective. If you're attacking and you're considering a move and you're like, that looks like a fun, dangerous move and it looks really scary, so I'm going to play this move. Hold your thought and think about, okay, if my opponent doesn't respond to this move, what is so good about it? What can I do after? If your opponent tanukis, will you have the advantage enough to play that second move there no matter what else they play? Or will their Tanuki kind of distract you and make you go, oh, actually, I don't want them to do that over there, so I'm going to go respond there? I mean, there are moments wherein you don't see this Sente in between move between your attack and their attack, but the general point is, do you have a second move as a follow-up that is kind of devastating? If not, maybe reconsider how potent your attack is. Now, on the flip side, if you're defending and your opponent decides to play a scary move, you might look at the move and immediately go, that's kind of scary. Well, I should just respond, right? Because it looks scary. No, you shouldn't, because it may look scary, but then think about whether they have a follow-up. If you don't respond and you do something else, there may be something big on the board elsewhere, and they do their follow-up, what does that do to you? Does it actually kill your group, or does it actually look fine? If it looks fine, then maybe consider Tanukiing. Attacks also, I believe, should have second purposes all the time. I mean, I'll cover this more, I think, in a bit, but the main point is, like, you don't necessarily just attack to try to kill the group, because I think that in Go, by design, the game is not really meant for just killing things outright, but communicating to each other that you are pressuring certain things so that you can get things for yourself. Does that make sense? Attacking for benefits, attacking for influence, attacking for territory. Attacking is really, I would say, as you grow as a Go player, you're not trying to kill. You're not trying to, because your opponent is supposed to respond to the attack, and they're supposed to do something decent to defend that attack. And so, with that in mind, if you're kind of playing decent proper Go, which I know we don't play decent proper Go, and that's why we kind of get bloodthirsty and we just keep going. That, the theory is that your attacks should have a second purpose, and you should try to play to that theory. Some other types of attacks being base stealing is a type of attack. If you have stone somewhere and they can only make a base in one direction, if you steal that base, this is kind of the same form of, this is rather a different form of what I mentioned earlier, with taking the big move that your opponent could take. It's like just kind of taking their footing away, right? And it is attack. They need to respond. They need to escape towards the center. You could also smother or threaten to smother or surround a group, because if you threaten to surround a group, even though that group lives, it will no longer have influence on the board, and it's kind of worthless. One thing that I have still struggled with when I look at AI reviews of games in the corner, AI really, really, really does not value a corner, no matter how big it is, if it is fully sealed off. And this is crazy to me, because when I see a group in the corner and my opponent is threatening to kill that group, I want to save it. I want to save it no matter what else there's going on the board. But when you review with AI will tell you that group, just let it go. Let them have all those points in the corner. Because you save that group, it doesn't do you any good. And that's a little hard for me to understand, hard for me to come to terms with when I play. It's really difficult for me to just leave a whole corner behind. But that's how powerful it is to surround a group. If a group is completely surrounded, that group is kind of useless. So threatening to even surround that group can be a move. Actually, the 3-3 invasion back then was bad for this reason, right? You go into the 3-3 and you don't have anything available to you, right? So, but it was kind of contradictory from the AI, because I guess it depends on the situation. But overall, the general 3-3 invasion is good enough. I think the general 3-3 invasion also isn't fully surrounded in the way that I'm talking about here, because there are some potentials for play along the side a little bit, and then the surrounding shape of the 3-3 is not as thick as it can be, and it's not. I wouldn't say that's a full smother, full surround. And like I said, the killing moves, obviously, I guess maybe that's an offensive move, maybe not an attacking move, but the final blow, if you're going to kill something and then just delete the eye space, these kind of Sumego problem type moves, the opposite of the living move that I mentioned earlier with the defensive move. So we covered the stakeout moves, like the opening moves, sketching out your territory and things like that. We've covered defensive moves. We covered offensive moves. And the next type of move, I would say, is kind of like the Yosei moves. Yosei, not to be confused with endgame, they're almost synonymous because you typically play Yosei at the end of the game. But Yosei moves are really the cash grab moves, the territory moves that are more micro and trying to take a few more points here and there. And they're played at the end because they're kind of small. They're smaller moves, and yet they are cold hard cash on the board. And this takes a lot of skill, but you can recognize a Yosei move when you see it, when it looks like a small move that doesn't add strength or attack, but it seems to extend the point of territories, the point total of territories of an opponent or of the player when they make that move. So that's kind of what I have. I think I made some broad strokes with the categories. You could say some moves are territory moves that are a little bit bigger, like if you're trying to do extra base, right? Like let's say a group has a base, but you extend it further. But that I might even just categorize as the staking out move. But those are the ones that I have here for generally what we do on the Go board. But the big point that ties everything together is the synthesis of all these purposes of moves and making sure your moves have multiple purposes, because that is an important Go concept. We aren't just making defending moves. We aren't just making attacking moves. We aren't just making stakeout moves. We're doing all of this together. And that's why Go is so hard and so difficult to understand. And that's why we always have these moments where we shrug our shoulders and say, I don't know why we made that move, because you're trying to do so many things at once and it starts to get lost. But if you can break it down and see that you're doing these things separately but together, then I think we can maybe understand our game a little better. So just to be a little more explicit and give you some examples, we talked about fixing our connections. What if you could do that while you attacked your opponent and pressured your opponent? Then you can gain Sente off of that move, right? You can fix what in Sente. So that attack may not gain any territory. It may not set you up for a big Moyo or anything like that. But what you're doing is you're combining this fix purpose, this defense purpose, but you're not losing any tempo, right? So that's why we combine it with the attack. So attacking has many different purposes. Another way to attack is to attack while making territory. Sometimes you attack and it allows you to create this wall of stones on one side of the board that just starts to look like a huge area of territory or influence. I think that when you are playing Go, it can be very easy to be overwhelmed by so many different things that you have to do. But what we do is we teach to treat the urgent moves first and then go from there. But while we're doing this, so we simplify to say that you want to focus on the urgent moves, but then we should then analyze what those urgent moves can also do, right? So if your urgent move is you have to go and attack this one group, or you have to save this group right over here because you're about to die. Well, before we just save that group, we can say how many ways can we save that group? And are there ways that can take territory? Do a little more extra cash from Yosei? What can I do that will also attack my opponent? What can I do that will threaten a little bit of, surrounding in the future? Maybe it's not a full-blown thing, but it can lead to potential moves in the future. So it's important, I think, to ask yourself this question: what is the purpose of my move during a game? You can also ask it while reviewing a pro game. If you're reviewing a pro game, I think it's a very good practice to ask, what is the purpose of such and such move? When your opponent makes a move, it is a good question to ask, right? If your opponent makes a move that doesn't make sense to you, try to make sense of it. It's always good to assume that your opponent knows what they're doing, that they actually have a theory behind a move that they make. When you're watching your favorite YouTuber or streamer play Go, think about why they're making the moves they're making. Instead of just looking at the move and going like, oh, that looks like a good move, and I'm going to make a move like that next time. So hopefully that was of some use to you guys. I think that Go is a very complex game, and I'm sure I missed a total big swaths of move types, but that's what I got for you guys. And the big point of all this, like I said, is trying to synthesize all these purposes and not get overwhelmed by that. I think that's the big point, the takeaway point here I would like you to have with these move types. Okay, I thought of another move type in the break. This is a trolling move, a move that you play to psych your opponent out. It's like when you play Tengen in the first move, or you play on the first line or something, and they're like, "What the heck? What did you do that for?" And you can kind of mentally game your opponent. Okay, it's time for the DDK Advice Corner, and an actual tip rather than a troll tip of the day is: restrain yourself when attacking. A weak group that your opponent has is a debt that they must climb out of, right? It's going to be weak whether you attack it or not. Attacking is good, but only if you have, like I said, a purpose to that attack. So I wouldn't say necessarily make it easy for them to climb out and make it convenient for them to climb out of that debt. But don't overexert on that attack, right? Make them a little uncomfortable, but look at your own benefits and look at your own purposes that you're trying to serve, and you might be more flexible as to how to attack that group without overextending, without being too fixated on trying to kill them, because that will usually not end so well. So restrain yourself while attacking. Try to serve your own interests while making your opponent uncomfortable. Now it's time for listener mail. Jesse writes, "Hi, I just ran into your podcast recently and I'm at the beginning of the archives, so this may have come up already. Are you familiar with the Steam game Just Go? It's a great program for beginners. It's basically an RPG where you play someone entering the Go world, and as you level up, you get cheats like an AI suggestion or having the board counted or taking back a move, and the cheats are actually great learning tools. The NPC bots all seem to have their own play styles and play at different ranks. Not perfect, but better than most bots. It has hundreds of Sumego puzzles, lessons, and replays of famous games. It's only like $10. I love it when I don't feel like playing a real game against people. Jesse." Well, thank you for writing in, Jesse, and I'm glad you are listening through the archives of Go. I wonder if that means that you won't listen to this response to your listener mail until much later. But here it is, here it goes. I have heard of Just Go. I believe I mentioned it in the podcast. I do have the game. I have played it. And I was impressed by the career mode is what what I'm thinking is what you're saying. I liked the career mode. I think the AI was overall pretty good at being somewhat human-ish, but obviously I think it kind of falls through a little bit. As all AI do. So I enjoyed the interface and I love the graphics and everything. I wasn't a huge fan of the RPG thing. Maybe it's because I'm already a developed Go player. But I'm not a huge fan of like the cheats, as you say. But if it helps beginners learn the game and get used to some of the very difficult aspects of Go, then sure, that's a great way. I haven't personally tried it really. I think I played it and I avoided doing any of that. But yeah, it's a great game if you guys are interested. I believe it also has a OGS interface, so if you can play OGS games via the Just Go interface. I think I'm a little scared there will be some hiccup there, so I don't think I dare to try it, but I'm sure people have had success with it. Thanks for writing in, Jesse, and thanks for listening through the archives. So happy to have you on board. Andreas writes, hello. I just wanted to thank you for doing your podcast. I am a player from Vienna who got back into the game about 1.5 years ago. I even met a local 4Dan teacher who plays teaching games with me every second week. Right now, I'm about 9Q. Wow, I'm jealous. That is a pretty good setup to play against a 4Dan every other week. And of course, thank you for listening to the podcast. Since my daughter was born on the 1st of April, I don't really have time or brain power for playing Go. Oh, congratulations. I was like, my daughter, I thought I was just like, that's their birthday, but literally like this past, in the past month, that's great. Congratulations. And I assume that will be very hard to play Go with that, new addition to your family. But when I finally managed to get her to sleep, I put on your podcast and listen while she dreams away. So thank you for keeping me connected to the game I love until I, hopefully soon, manage to get enough sleep from my brain to work again. Also, thank you for your calm voice. And there is some Mitfreundlichen Gruben. Oh man, I butchered that, didn't I? Andreas, thank you so much for writing in and your kind words and for listening to the show. I'm so happy that it can keep you connected to the Go world. That's what I aim to do. And maybe you have some time for correspondence games. That's how I'm keeping connected to the Go world right now, aside from this podcast. But anyway, thank you again so much for writing in and for your kind words. Paul writes, Justin, I think an interesting topic would be coaches/teachers. How to find the right one, how that works, potentially what it costs, etc. Informally finding a more experienced player is one way, of course. Some of us don't have a local club based on location. This is not mail per se, but a topic idea, thanks. Well, I guess I took it as mail. And like I said in the beginning of the episode, I am welcoming topic ideas, so thank you for your suggestion. I believe I did do an episode like this one, maybe. Why you should get a Go teacher or something like that a while back, but I could definitely expand on that topic, so thank you for the suggestion. And I always say, if you don't have a club to go to, you can start one. Next, we got DJ. I listened to episode 110 about what type of other games Go players play. When you first were being cryptic, first thing that came to my mind was city builders. That said, I can understand your pick of Celeste and why. However, when talking about games which externally boost you, through more powerful weapons or armor, I think you need to specify one thing to make that point, which I didn't remember hearing. It must be single player. You had mentioned games like League of Legends, which does externally boost your character. However, you are also competing against others directly, which typically the winner is who is better, who is more consistent, who has the best strategy, etc. That's all internal. Also, drowning out the toxicity of that community is an internal matter as well. Joking, but not really. Anyways, if Go players haven't checked out a City Builders, highly suggest City Skyline version 1. I've never heard of this game, City Builders. I don't even know what genre of game it is. I'm going to actually do a quick Google search to see what this even looks like. But to your point about the internal thing about the game having to be single player, I think I got this with a lot of the listener mail at the time. But there are many ways to interpret this, because even with the RPG, right, which what I was saying in that episode was that it may not be the Go player style game, because instead of harnessing inner skill and developing your inner strength, you are given items to level up your character and given better armor, and your character has like this strength level up and stuff, and so it's external to you. But you can also make the argument that managing those upgrades and those armor and all that RPG element stuff is actually an internal strength in and of itself, right? So you can always zoom out and interpret it that way. I'm looking at city builders. I can't seem to find like a city builders cities skyline version 1. Maybe I should Google this. City skylines. There, city skylines. What is this? Oh, this looks like SimCity. Is it not SimCity? It looks like SimCity. Oh, but it has like looks like it has like a preview mode or something where you can like see the actual city in like a more realistic way. I don't know this game. But yeah, in that regard, I guess what I was talking about mostly in that episode is the type of player that plays Go is one that likes to harness their own strength and develop it. But there is the other side of it where the game of Go is really like a building kind of game. And I think I touch on this in the board game episode. But there are games where it's like a building game. You get to create something and then you see the result of your work, and that's very much another way you can kind of attract Go players through other video games. But anyway, thank you for writing in. DJ Salara writes, actually, to expand on that one, another game that I enjoy that is all pure skill with no luck or whatnot are the Wipeout anti-gravity racing games. I tend to do zone mode and speed lap, which is just you and the track, trying to get the fastest lap time, changing lines, getting better angles, speed pads. There are different ships you can race that have varying parameters, but you can still test your mettle against your own ghosts of previous trials. So I've not heard of this game either, but this sounds a lot like to me of Trackmania. Let me look at how this looks. Wipeout. Oh, this looks like F-Zero. That's cool. But yeah, so actually, honestly, I'm a huge fan of racing games. I love racing games. They are very like skill based, and I like Rocket League. So I mean, I guess that's not a racing game, but it's a driving game. So I tried to get into Trackmania. I think it was fun. I enjoyed it, but it was slightly too stale for me. Like it was just a little too much only technical. And I think I could have got into it maybe in another lifetime, but, because I did enjoy it. But a game I've been eyeing lately actually is called Lonely Mountains Downhill. And that is a game where you're a biker and you're trying to go down a mountain trail without crashing. And I played a demo for it. I think a demo is free on Steam. There's another version of it where you're skiing. But I really liked that game. It was really fun. I might pick that up at some point. But yeah, that's there's so many games that we can play and develop our internal skill. Thanks for writing in, Salara. Sadaharu writes, I've mentioned this before, but I think the problem with Go is that it's harder for beginners to have fun or feel the thrill when playing Go. Unlike chess, where you can checkmate and capture pieces, you don't capture stones and kill dragons all the time in Go. That's why we have Capture Go, but that doesn't really solve the problem because Capture Go is different from real Go. Essentially, Go is a surrounding game, and how to make that appealing to beginners is something that we need to think about continuously. I completely agree, and I've said that when a beginner learns Go, they get that short burst of thrills from capturing, and then they keep playing and realize it's not about capturing, and then they probably lose interest there. Chess, like, you can totally go for like I want to capture mentality for a very long time and not have to think too much about it. Just capture good. But for Go, yes, capture good, but it's like you have to mature enough as a Go player to then reap the reward of having that beautiful game and understanding what's happening. And that's very, very delayed gratification, and you may not understand why you're doing it until you get there. But I think, at least for me, I was very curious about it. It was just so enigmatic. It was like, what is this? Why isn't it working? And I was like, I just needed to know how people are winning this game. And it was just such pure curiosity that drove me. And so maybe that's a thing. Like, you got to be curious. You got to make it mysterious, and that's why it's so important to also have the media to make it look cool, like Hikaru no Go. Thanks for writing in, Sadaharu. Firefox writes, my answer to the question of the week. And just a reminder, the question of the week for this one was, is there something you like to tell beginners, or do you have an elevator pitch for the game of Go? Firefox says, my elevator pitch for first-time beginners, especially if I'm hosting a Go booth during a local festival, is the following. Guest walks by interested in our Go booth. Me. Hello, have you seen this game before? Guest. I haven't. Me. Well, this game is called Go, and it is one of the oldest board games in the world. The rules are very simple, and I can teach it to you in 3 minutes. Afterwards, you can take the 5-stone Pocky challenge, where if you can beat me on this 9x9 board with a 5-stone advantage, you can choose any Pocky flavor you'd like. Would you like to learn the rules? 90% of the time they say yes, winky face. Well, that is a great strategy. Free Pocky, or an earned Pocky after playing a game. I myself like Pepero with some Korean pride there, but that is, bribery is always going to interest people. Rewards and treats and snacks, so that's great. And I liked your pitch because it has this like low investment 3 minutes rules time, and you have the history in there. It's great. It's such a good pitch. Just name that it's called Go. It's one of the oldest board games in the world. Rules can be taught in 3 minutes, and add in a sweetener of a Pocky. That's a great strategy. I'm wondering, do you play an actual full game, like a real like territorial game of Go? Because that's impressive. If you can teach that in 3 minutes, I wonder, you probably leave out some of the technical rules like Ko and stuff like that, or maybe you keep it in. I don't know. I'm interested to know. But that's a great pitch, and I'm also very impressed that you have experience doing Go booth during festivals. I'd love to see more of that. Go in places where Go is not the main thing, right? If you're going to a Go club or a Go congress, you're obviously going to see Go stuff and Go booths. But if you have some other kind of festival and you're able to slot in a Go booth, that's awesome. I love that. So thank you for your service in that regard, Firefox. And the question of the week this week is, did I miss any classifications of moves? Would you have sorted the moves, or do you have another way of sorting the moves? If you'd like to share your thoughts, and please do share your thoughts, you can comment wherever you found this episode, or email me directly at starpointpaduk@gmail.com. That's starpointbaduk@gmail.com. If you're a YouTube listener, I would greatly appreciate a like and a subscribe if you haven't already. And if you're a podcast listener, reviews and ratings also help. You can also hit a follow button there. A very special thank you to James B., Brendan S., Tristan, Jeff H., and Tyraniton, and Andrew P. for supporting Starpoint. Thank you guys so much. If you want to support the show in any capacity, you can go to kofi.com/starpointpaduk. That's KO-FI. Or check out the Starpoint store at store.starpointpaduk.com. Come on over to the Discord. You can find the link to that in the description. Now, it is said in ancient Greek-Chinese mythology that Poseidon plays Go upon the waves of the sea, and that's what accounts for the changes in the water levels throughout the world. And sometimes he plays against Zeus, sometimes he plays against Ares, but as long as Poseidon plays upon the sea, the waters go up and down because the games are always tied. Thanks for listening. Keep playing Go.